8,
You're watching The
7,
Experience, Comic Culture and
6,
Sales.
5,
Streaming live daily to
4,
Facebook, YouTube,
3,
Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
I am, as always, not Dan Wickline. That has never not been the case. I have never been Dan Wickline, nor do I pretend to be Dan Wickline on television. I just thought I needed to start with that. What's up, the internet? I am producer Kyle, and my whole thing just froze, so hopefully you saw that. I am producer Kyle. This is the Dan Wickline Show. Dan is slightly under the weather. Everyone send Dan your good vibes. He is fighting off more of that terrible illness that had him sidelined a few weeks ago. But in the meantime, I thought I would come on and hang out with you guys. And as I was looking for a topic, something occurred to me. And I want to get your opinion on this, the internet. Have we decided definitively, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Like, do we have a definitive answer on that question? Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Because today's show is about spooky season movies and TV shows. And I read a list that had some movies on there that I don't think should count. But if Die Hard is a Christmas movie, then maybe. So stick with me, and we're going to talk about it when we come back after the music plays. What's up, the internet? Once again, I am producer Kyle. This is the Dan Wickline Show. Legally with not Dan Wickline. What's up to Triple B and Kenneth and everybody else who's here? Say hi in the chat when you get here. We are going to talk today about spooky season. These are all the things where you can find the Dan Wickline. Don't look for me there. I'm not there. Hello, not Jolly Green Giant. So when I was looking for a topic to talk about, I was kind of surfing around the internet, looking at news and whatever, and I came across an article from Variety that is listing the 21 best Halloween movies ever. And it got me thinking, are there certain movies that are more Halloween and more spooky season than others? And then it brought me around to that Die Hard question of, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? And the reason I ask is because one of the movies on the list, in fact, ranked number 10 on the list of the greatest Halloween movies of all times, is Karate Kid. Now, I know there's a scene in Karate Kid where they're like at the Halloween dance and they've all got their costumes on, but it's not really a Halloween movie. It just takes place at Halloween or in the fall. And Die Hard, takes place kind of the same way. Not really on Christmas necessarily. It doesn't really have anything to do with Christmas, but it happens in that season. And so I set out to try and come up with what are some of the best Halloween movies and spooky season movies of all time. And I thought this list was really good, except for, again, including the Karate Kid. But like the top 10, I think are great. Like, it starts with the Karate Kid, which shouldn't be in there, which means Sleepy Hollow is number 10. House of a Thousand Corpses, Donnie Darko, E.T., Pumpkinhead, Halloween 3, Nightmare Before Christmas, Trick or Treat, Hocus Pocus, and Halloween. The fact that this list does not include Halloween Town, we're talking Trick or Treat, JD. The fact that this list does not include Halloween Town is a mistake. And in the top 10, you know, it's a little tough to kind of source them out. But what qualifies a movie as a holiday movie, right? A Christmas movie or a Halloween movie or a Thanksgiving movie or whatever. And when do you start watching seasonal films, as it were? For instance, I won't start watching Christmas movies until December 23rd. It's my rule. I don't start watching Halloween movies until like this week. I try and keep it as close to the holiday as possible and pack as much in as possible. Thanksgiving is different. I make an exception on Thanksgiving. Like we'll watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation on Thanksgiving. Of course, I also have to watch WKRP in Cincinnati, the Turkey Drop, and some of that kind of stuff on Thanksgiving. So, when do you, in your respective traditions, the internet, start watching the spooky films for Halloween? Are you one of those people who watches one a day every day for the whole month of October? Are you some of those people who watch multiple movies but only do it a couple of days a week? What is your schedule? And then, what do you think is the greatest Halloween film of all time? And why is it Ernest Scared Straight? Just asking. In the meantime, I want to talk about something else that I discovered this week. And that is, there is a new show on the Max platform. Jack Osbourne's Night of Terror. And it got me thinking about another thing that I kind of... Isn't it Ernest Scared Stupid? What did I say, Pat? Anyway, it got me thinking about this new thing that's on the HBO Max, which is Jack Osbourne's Night of Terror. And so the premise of the show is that Jack Osbourne, who you may know as Ozzy, you know, his son, the whole okay, yeah, it's Ernest Scared Stupid. Anyway, it's Jack Osbourne from the Osbournes taking his celebrity friends ghost hunting. Maybe the worst ghost hunting show I've ever seen, but also probably the most entertaining, because the things that you see on the show aren't typical for a ghost hunting show. And so I wanted to ask you guys about ghost hunting shows. Do you watch them? Do you consume them? What do you think of them? Why are people so into ghost hunting shows? The Jack Osbourne's Night of Terror show, the first episode, he takes his mother, Sharon Osbourne, ghost hunting. Now, if you've lived the life that Sharon Osbourne has lived, do ghosts really scare you all that much? I mean, she's seen Ozzy naked. Like, do ghosts really scare you? I don't know. Second episode, she takes Jenny McCarthy, who's just spends the whole episode trying to figure out when's a good time for me to FaceTime Donnie Wahlberg. Meanwhile, there's like ghost activity everywhere. The third episode is probably the best episode so far. Which is Jack takes his sister Kelly, who, if you remember from the original Osborne show, this came up, has a little bit of the shine. She's got a little bit of some psychic, intuitive in her, which is interesting and fascinating. And they take her to one of the most haunted places in America, definitively. And it's a very interesting episode. Let me tell you why I'm watching the show. And then by the time I'm done with that, we're going to take our first break. And we'll come back and we'll dive into these Halloween movies and TV shows here. There are promises on certain episodes that Jack is going to take Jay Muse ghost hunting. And I just want to see Jay Muse be Jay Muse around ghosts, right? Like, I want him to be Jay from Jay and Silent Bob with ghosts. And then Ozzy goes ghost hunting. And I'm living for the possibility that Ozzy just starts provoking the ghosts. The ghosts show up and they're like trying to scare Ozzy. He goes, "Is that supposed to scare me? I partied with Keith Moon." Like, I did coke in the 80s. I've seen it all. Like, whatever that is, I'm living for the idea of Ozzy Osbourne provoking ghosts on this show. But what is the fascination with these ghost hunter shows? Triple B said, Ghost Hunters, Taps, the OGs, love that show. Right, but I don't get it. You never see a ghost. None of these people ever get possessed. It's not The Shining. You don't see it, or not, it's not Poltergeist. I don't know why I said The Shining. It's not Poltergeist. It's not, The Exorcist. It's nobody's head spins around and then they throw up on people. Like, if that was happening, I could get it. It's almost as if there's no such things as ghosts. Well, spend any time with Jenna and you'll not believe that to be true anymore, JD. That's a real thing. They do open themselves up to stuff, but like, nothing ever happens. Make something happen. I don't know. But when we come back, we're going to take our first break here in just a second. But when we come back, we're going to get into more of why do people watch ghost hunting shows. I have a theory. I'd like to hear from you why you think that's the case, why you think people are into these things. And then I want to talk about the greatest Halloween movies and TV shows ever. So we're going to take our first break. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys that coming up after this show, there will be an hour gap, and then there's Comic Collectibles with Rex and John. Or just Rex, or whoever's there, Rex and Alex. From Dynamic Forces. They're going to have killer stuff. Then following that show, we have Triple T and 360 Comics and Kicking It with Henri. So that's the rest of tonight. We're going to talk about more stuff when we get back. But in the meantime, check out these words from our sponsors and stick around and come back with your theories as to why people watch this stuff. We'll be right back. Why was Princess Zelda sad after watching a bunch of YouTube videos? She couldn't find a link in the description. We'll stop if you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's super easy. Click subscribe and click the bell when you do. And thanks for supporting the EXP.
Comic Collectibles is a pretty straightforward show. You got Rex here, he sells the comics, and you got Rockin' Robbie, he knows about the comics. And finally, John, well, no one really knows what John does. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a great guy, but he just keeps showing up. Come to think of it, I don't even really know how he gets in here. Anyway, awesome comics, rare books, rarer signatures, slabbed books, and amazing cover sketches by Ken Hazer and others. Simple formula, you want the comics, you buy the comics. To sum up, Rex sells the comics, Robbie knows the comics, and John, who might possibly be a ghost. I mean, seriously, has anyone ever seen him show up or leave? Comic Collectibles with Rex and John, Mondays from 6 to 8 Eastern on The Experience. Comic Culture and Sales. To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise. A promise of adventure. A promise of excitement. A promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey. And behind every page, there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com today.
What if Hans Gruber from Die Hard had to battle the Joker from Batman the Animated Series in a dance battle? Or who would win in a race between Baby from Baby Driver and Snidely Whiplash? If Austin Powers and Shrek found themselves in a hot dog eating contest, who would emerge victorious? These are the questions we talk about on Nerd Killer Warfare. Debate the most absurd questions you've ever heard in popular culture. Register now by scanning the QR code or visiting bit.ly/EXP casting. What's up, the internet? Welcome back in. This is the Dan Wickline Show. I am not Dan Wickline. I am producer Kyle, and we are talking about spooky season. Specifically, the shows and movies that come with spooky season. And I asked a question before the break. And I recognize that it was a long break. So we're going to reiterate the question and we're going to get into it. Why do people watch ghost hunting shows? I don't get it. Nothing ever happens. I'm watching one, like I said, like I talked about before the break, I'm watching this new Jack Osbourne one on the promise that watching Ozzy Osbourne ghost hunt will be hysterical. That watching Jay Muse ghost hunt will be hysterical. But like, when they're just the serious ones, when they're the ones who are super earnest, what's the draw? And why don't you ever see anything? Because you never see anything. Like, there were some shows back in the old days where you had people legit getting, like, what they wanted you to believe was possessed and attacked by spirits. And now it's just like, oh, we heard a noise. What was that? Shaky cam. Turn around. I don't get it. So Jay says the reason you don't see things is that ghosts don't like the production value of those shows. Jay, then why am I not getting attacked constantly for the low production value on this show? Triple B says, Ghost Adventures ruined ghost hunting shows. I'm glad Ghost Hunters came back. If you believe it makes the show funner. I get that. And I don't,
here's my thing. I am a ghost agnostic, right? I don't know that there are ghosts or aren't ghosts. I'm willing to accept that people have had experiences with ghosts or with spirits or with things that are not exactly explainable. But also, like, I believe in science. And so there's this level of, okay, you had an experience that was unexplainable. I will grant you that, but like there's got to be a reason for it. And if that reason is ghosts, I'm going to need some proof in my own life. You know, like, and so like, again, I mentioned earlier, hanging out with Jenna is a good kind of experience in your own life. Or getting that Oogie Boogie feeling when you're alone in an old building. Great. But like, I want one of these ghost hunters one time to like be like, hey, there's a thing. And they don't necessarily have died before all of us, Jay. Like, I'm sure there are recent ghosts. But why don't they show up? Jen King says, for those of us that have personal experiences, we're looking for others with ones as well. And I get that. I don't believe it was aliens, Jay or JD. I believe it was the Men in Black. But no, that's my question. Like, is it really just people looking for confirmation of what they already believe? Which I think is a fair and valid reason to watch those shows, or confirmation of that they're not alone in things they've experienced, because I think those are fair and valid reasons. But at the same time, it just baffles me that these shows are so popular with just no definable evidence. There's no, oh, yep, that was definitely a ghost right there. None of that. It was, we heard a noise. Was it the building settling or was it a ghost? We saw a light. Was it just a camera trick or a lens error? Or was it actually a ghost? And so, like I said, these shows baffle me. But I think the key is, and again, it's what I'm seeing with this Jack Osborne show, right? The more entertaining you can make it, right? The more either extreme the situation can be, or the more absurd the hunt can be, the better the show is. Again, I think taking Sharon Osbourne into this hotel that's supposedly haunted and like making her sit alone in a dark room leads to the potential for hilarity. Taking someone like Jay Muse, who's so quick on his feet in terms of the comedy and in terms of the witty repartee, and putting him in a situation where he's legitimately uncomfortable can be very entertaining. Taking someone like Ozzy Osbourne, who, let's be real, man, if that guy's not under some sort of protection order from some higher power, I don't know how he's still around. But taking him and putting him in a position where he is confronted by the things that he has embodied through his character as a performer for all these years, that's wildly entertaining to me. And so I think the reason people watch these shows is, like Jen said, is looking for others who have had similar experiences to them. But I think most people are just watching for the sole purpose of going, how absurd and how insane can this situation become? And there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes to me, it feels a little, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is right now. Exploitative of people who genuinely believe that there's something happening even when there might not be, or exploitative of the viewers, where it's exploiting their inherent fears or their inherent beliefs or the experiences that they've had for ratings. But at the same time, like, again, watching Jenny McCarthy try to ghost hunt and call Donnie Wahlberg from New Kids on the Block, and then him kind of yelling at her because the ghost hunting equipment was freaking out their dogs, is hysterical. I don't know. So we started the show with the 21. Why 21, not 20? I don't know. 21 best Halloween movies of all time, according to Variety. And I disagree with some of the things on the list, but it got me thinking about what my favorite Halloween movie is. And I suppose for me, the answer is probably always A Nightmare on Elm Street. My favorite horror movie. I watch it on Halloween. But everybody has a different favorite spooky season movie or tradition. And so what are some of yours? I saw earlier, and I'm really bad about starring these comments so I can come back to them and find them earlier, that Triple B watches 31 horror movies in 31 days for October. What other, Jay says they binge a couple of days a week. What are your traditions? Do you do 30 days of Halloween? Do you do 31 days of Halloween? Are you like me that you flip through the channels and you go, oh, this is a good movie, I'm going to watch this. And then you get in the movie. You get into the mood. JD says he watches 30 Days of Night every Halloween. The rest are random. That's fair. The one thing, and I will give JD credit for this. I watch, this time of year in particular, I watch a lot more MST3K and riff tracks than I normally do. If you know anything about me, you guys know I'm not huge into the horror movie. I'm into horror, but I don't really go in for horror movies or drama. I'm a big comedy in terms of what I'm watching. I will read a ton of horror. Every year around this time, I read basically the complete works of Edgar Allan Poe. I read a lot of these other kind of Mary Shelley, other horror classics. Joe Hill's pass on Nosferatu, things like that. But I don't really watch a lot of horror movies, but I watch a lot of MST3K and riff tracks watching horror movies. Because the one thing I could tell you, especially about classic horror movies, they made these things for like $6 and a ham sandwich. And when you can make fun of them and be scared at the same time, they really have achieved something. Like, it's really an achievement in filmmaking to make something that is both scary and comedic. And so it brings me back to that question. Is Karate Kid a Halloween movie? Is E.T.? Do you guys think they're Halloween movies? Do you guys think they're spooky season movies? JD is telling me no on the Karate Kid. What are some of your scary movie traditions? Put them in the comments. I see that there's more of you than are commenting. So throw them in the comments. What are some of your spooky season movie and TV traditions? One of mine that I'll tell you about is Parks and Recreation, my favorite television program. Every year did Halloween episodes. And so I will go through and watch all of those. The Office Halloween specials are always great. What are some of the things you do to get yourself in the mood for spooky season? Are you one of those who gets in the mood for spooky season just by going to whatever store and buying one of those big bags of candy that you intend to give out to trick-or-treaters and then eating the whole bag of candy and then being like, crap, I got to go buy another bag of candy to give to trick-or-treaters? Let me know. Triple B says he thinks Bambi's a horror movie. I don't think Bambi is a horror movie. I think Bambi's a true crime movie. But I see where you can get there. I like the idea that everybody's traditions are so varied when it comes to consuming media and consuming pop culture in and around the holidays. You know, I have those friends who at Christmas always watch It's a Wonderful Life. And I think that movie's awful. Like, I've been in the play and I think that movie's awful. Miracle on 34th Street, kind of in the same vein. But that's some people's traditions, and they're very different to other people's traditions. And so I'm interested when it comes to Halloween, because I don't have necessarily a standing one, right? I watch some sitcoms. I watch some scary movies. I watch some Mystery Science Theater 3000. Is there a key out there to what makes a good horror movie and doesn't? Is there a certain thing you look for in a proper spooky season film? Like, I mentioned Halloween Town earlier. Does the bad guy have to wear a mullet? You know, it's this idea of how do you formulate your traditions in this regard? Jay says, no cares. Have the Christmas classics on Blu-ray. Old claymation ones. Watch those. Die Hard and A Christmas Story. Right. So that's a Christmas tradition. Do you have Halloween or Thanksgiving traditions? What makes up a good one? We're going to take another break a little early here, and we're going to get back to this in just a second. But I'm going to give Pat a 2-minute timeout here. But when we come back, we're gonna talk about this a little bit more. So we're gonna take a quick break, and we will be right back after this message.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
According to a statistic that I just made up, people spend 4 hours a day changing the television channel. People who watch The Experience don't do that. Save yourself a ton of time by tuning into The Experience and enjoying our new original programming 7 days a week. And then tell your friends. Think about the money they could save on batteries in the remote alone just by tuning into The Experience. Find out more by scanning the QR code below.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is the Dan Wickline Show. I am legally not Dan Wickline. I am producer Kyle. And we are talking about Halloween, spooky season, film and TV traditions. And Jay says that whatever scary movie is on, he's never had a specific tradition for Halloween or Thanksgiving. Is that true of everybody else? Do you not have a specific tradition? Do you just kind of scroll through and whatever's on TCM, you watch it? And I don't know, maybe you guys are used to Dan Wickline, but when I'm here, y'all got to respond to these questions, like in the comments. Otherwise, we don't have a whole lot to talk about, because without you guys, you just want to hear me talk? Nobody wants that. So we were talking about this list, and the number one movie on the list is Halloween, which feels a little on the nose. I can't say that it's wrong, but it feels a little on the nose. So in the comments, and Pat, nobody would have to hear me talk if people would comment. In the comments, I want you to tell me Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Chucky. Take your pick. You got one of four. Greatest horror franchise movie of all time. Greatest horror franchise movie of all time. Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Chucky. Child's Play. Chucky. If you say Look Who's Talking, I will count that as a Chucky film, by the way. So Jenna's the one who decides in the Jay Burns household. That makes sense. Pat would say Chucky. Yeah, I mean, I think that the Child's Play series really does have a great sort of franchise quality to it, whereas some of the others are more individual standalones in the same series. But I get that it's a tough question for some people. Jay's going to go with Friday the 13th because they go into space. It's true, Jason in space. That's a whole thing, man. Nightmare on Elm Street. See, this person and I will be friends because Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite scary movie. Yeah. Definitely my favorite scary movie. I don't watch it as often as I should, but it's legitimately one of those movies that still freaks me out to this day. I saw it when I was probably too young to be seeing it, and it's still one of those movies that I watch every year, and every year it freaks me out a little. Does anybody watch the Rocky Horror Picture Show around Halloween? I don't necessarily think it's necessarily considered a Halloween movie, or should be considered a Halloween movie so much as it is a spooky cult classic. But it definitely gets a lot of play this time of year. Well, I was going to get to that story here in a minute, Pat. I'll be honest. I'm not really a huge scary movie person anyway. It destroyed me as a kid, and I never wanted to go back to scary movies. Jenna does. I got to clean up a ton of popcorn after. So, my fascination with why people watch scary movies started pretty young. I was 4 or 5 the first time I saw Nosferatu. The original, the Criterion Collection Nosferatu. And I think it probably happened because my dad and my uncle decided, not old enough to remember, So was it going to do long-lasting trauma? Well, they were wrong. It was largely the same way. I saw it when I was 5 or 6. And I've not liked clowns since. I mean, even though I have one right here that's plenty creepy, it's like this thing that, like, it just stuck with me. Is there a movie or something? Can anybody confirm? Like, is this something that's a holdover from your childhood, right? You first saw a movie and it scared the crap out of you and you either liked it or didn't like it, but now you're obsessed with them? I'll never forget my uncle showing me The Thing That Ate New York. And going, I don't understand how that could possibly work. Like, just doesn't make sense to me. And then watching the movie and just for days, every time I saw a semi-truck, being terrified. So it's this weird thing. I don't really know the answer. And, we haven't really solved anything other than why people watch ghost stories, ghost hunters. But I think it's an interesting thing to think about. Halloween traditions, scary movie traditions. What's your favorite scary movie? Stuff like that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to dip a little bit early today to give everybody time to get ready for Comic Collectibles in about an hour and 15 minutes from now. All right, they've got killer stuff, great incentive, or no incentives this week, but great stuff. And they always have great stuff. And then stay tuned for the rest of the programming we have tonight. We have really good programming the rest of the night and tomorrow and Friday. And then next week. So Dan should be back tomorrow. So if you're used to just showing up and having Dan talk to you, he'll be back tomorrow. If not, maybe I'll be back and maybe I'll play along a little bit more. Maybe I'll have a topic that is more open to being played along to. I get that this one's not for everybody. So, we're going to get out of here. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. Make sure you say hi to everybody. Make sure you stick around for the other shows that we're going to have in a little bit. Chesney getting in right at the end here. It's not a horror film per se, but The Fly always stuck with me. That final trans, right? It's those little things that just kind of stick in the back of your brain and you can always kind of see. Absolutely. 100%. And by the way, I think The Fly I think it could count as a horror movie. So, come back tomorrow. Dan will be back. I will not be here. We will see you all then. Thanks for coming. Thanks for playing along. Thank you to Chesney and Jay and Pat and Triple B and Kenneth and Jen and everybody who commented, everybody who tuned in to watch, everybody who hit like, everybody who hit thumbs up. Thank you all for being here. Stick around and we'll see you next time.
Do you remember what it was like when you were a little kid and you got a letter in the mail? Now imagine that letter was filled with information about your favorite shows, pop culture questions, links to things you're going to want to see later, and even sneak peeks at upcoming programming here on The Experience. That's what the EXP mailing list is. Every week, we send you sneak peeks, information, and all of the relevant links for all of the shows you want to see. Sign up now on our website or scan the QR code that's on your screen right now.